Hi, and welcome to the first lesson on ratio from your booklet 10. Well done on all the work you've done on percentages. And now we're going to look at ratio. Now, what does ratio mean? Now, I know you've done this before. And if you were looking at counters, like say red and green counters, we could say that the ratio of green to red, we could write it down like this. Ratio of green to red, these two dots mean ratio, is we've got 2 green counters to every 1 red counter. So green to red is 2 to 1. 2 green counters to 1 red counter. The order we put these numbers is important. It's got to match, and these dots just mean the ratio. Now, if you had this scenario of green to red counters, you can see you've got 4 green to 2 red. But that is exactly the same as saying that every 2 green counters has 1 red counter. So what I've done is I've simplified the ratio. So to simplify the ratio, it's like fractions. Whatever I do to the one side, I do to the other side. So I've divided 4 by 2 and I've divided 2 by 2. That's called simplifying a ratio. I can't simplify this anymore because there's no numbers that go into 2 and 1 to make it more simple. Okay. So, what about this one here? I can see, if I looked at all of the counters, that I've got 8 green counters and 4 red counters. But I can simplify that to 2 to 1 by dividing both of the numbers by 4. And you can see to every 2 green counters, I have 1 red counter. So all of these ratios that we've looked at are exactly the same. Okay, so you may get a question like this. I would like you to simplify this ratio of orange to purple. Okay, so orange to purple is 6 to 4. So what can I do to 6 and 4? What can I divide these numbers by? Well, they're both even numbers, so I can divide by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And you can see that to every 3 oranges, I have 2 purples. So I have simplified the ratio. Now, the questions you're going to have a go at, you don't have counters, you don't have the picture, you just have the numbers. So we're going to look at simplifying these ratios. So ask yourself, what times table are 10 and 15 in? Well, they're both in the 5 times table. So let's divide both sides by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So I have simplified the ratio. Okay, what can I divide both 4 and 6 by? Well, they're both divisible by 2. They're both even numbers. So I have the answer 2 to 3. So we can see actually these are exactly the same ratios. And the last one, 9 and 15, they're both in the 3 times table. So 3 to 5 is the simplified ratio. All of these, I can't simplify them anymore because there's no numbers that will divide into both of them to make the numbers smaller. Okay, so that's called simplifying a ratio. So you're going to have a go now. Pause the video. Go back and write some notes if you didn't do it as you were going through that work. Pause the video and have a go at these questions now. and I'll go through the answers. Okay, so the first one, divide by 4, I get 1 to 2. Next one, divide by 3, 2 to 1. Divide both by 3, 1 to 4. Divide by 5, 3 to 4. Divide by 7, 3 to 2. And divide by 3, 6 to 7. So well done if you got those correct. It's just like equivalent fractions. You can think of like 4/8 will simplify to a half. Yes, and for example 18 out of 21 will simplify to 6/7. It's just a different way of writing it. You're writing it as a ratio rather than a fraction. Okay, next we're going to complete the missing ratio now. Okay, so these are equivalent ratios, so they represent the same number of counters for one colour to the other counter. So ask yourself, 5 times what is 10? 5 times 2. So I have to times this by the same number to get 4. Okay, question 2. How many 3's go into 12? 4. So I times by 4 here. Next question, 3. I times by 4. So I times by 4. My answer is 8. Oh, and now I've got I can't have a decimal in a ratio. Okay, I would always make it whole numbers. So I times a half by 2 to get 1. So I have to double this one. I've doubled both sides. Okay, and the last one, 2 times 10 is 20. So times by 10, I get 4. Okay, so you're going to have a go at doing some of these now. I'd like you please to pause the video and have a go at completing the equivalent pair here. So pause and have a go, and I'll go through the answers. Okay, first one, times by 3, times by 5, times by 5, times by 10, times by 10. Okay, if you've got any questions there, please send them to me by email. Right, so next question. Right, now this ratio is not in its simplest term with the decimal, okay? When you've got decimals, it's not in the simplest way of writing. So to make it into the simplest way of writing, what I have to do is to get rid of the decimal. So if I times a half by 2, I'll get 1. So I have to times 4 by 2. Now, I cannot simplify this ratio anymore. It's as simple as I can get. So you would never, if you're simplifying a ratio, you never have decimals in the ratio. So this is your key fact. When writing a ratio, both numbers must be whole numbers, i.e. another word for whole numbers is integer. So pause the video and write this down and show this example here, please. Okay. Last thing, okay. I want you to circle, think to yourselves, which of these are in the simplest form? Okay, which ratios are in the simplest form? Okay, so I'll go through this one with you. Yes, this is simplest. Yes, and yes. Decimals are not ever in its simplest form. So this one I can simplify, and this one I can simplify. Okay, so your turn. Circle the ratios that are in their simplest form, please. Okay, so pause and I will have a go. Right, so the ratios in the simplest form is this one and this one. We can't think of any numbers that go into them to make the numbers smaller. Decimals, I'd have to times them both by 2. And here I'd have to divide by 2. So only these two are in the simplest form. Okay, now you're going to have a go at the work that I've asked you to do in your Show My Homework. And that is, because I haven't actually written it down, but it's going to be ratio. Okay, so your starting ratio. It's got an introduction here of what I've been through. You're going to start exercise 10G on page 10. And you're going to have a go at doing the questions that I've asked you to do in Show My Homework. Okay, and then I'll put some compulsory and some optional questions in there. If you haven't got the booklet, I always attach it to Show My Homework, but I did post them all through last Easter, so I hope you've got those. Okay, have a good day.